Hello guys, Ryan here from the London Craftsman channel. How's it all going? And in today's episode, we're going to be delving into the subject of LED lighting, and in particular, under-shelf concealed LED lighting. So if you have a project and you don't know how to do it, albeit whether it's a floating shelf, an alcove unit, a wardrobe, a TV media unit, anything that involves lighting and you need help doing it, this is most probably the video for you. So stay tuned, watch to the end, and I hope you enjoy. Okay, so let's jump straight in the deep end and talk about the shelf construction. But the way I like to make my shelf to allow for the LED lighting to fit in there is to make it up out of laminated pieces. So laminated obviously means gluing together a couple of pieces in layers. We've got a top section here, which is 18mm, and we've got another two pieces. So there's another way you can do this. You could just have two pieces the same width and then just run your bottom section through a spindle molder with a cutter or a router to create this groove. My technique is to just make three pieces in total, a top piece and two smaller pieces. Work out where you want your groove and then just glue your pieces on. So this piece is 70mm and this is 170. And then we've got a 20mm groove here. Nice and simple. All we need to do is just make sure that we treat these edges first before we glue them down, just to give ourselves a little head start. If we don't, then we're just having to sand these edges up and paint them by hand, and it gets a little bit messy. So just before you glue these two strips down onto the bottom layer, you want to just sort out the edges by just going through the sandpapers, maybe P80, P120, P240. Give a light fill, maybe with some ready mix filler, then just rub back again with 240 or even 320. Also, you want to be taking off the sharp edges too. And we generally take off the sharp edges here too, just to give us a nice detail. But right now, because we spray in our spray booth, I know we've got a nice flat pre-primed surface on both sides to jump in the sprayer, and the spray will just stick to that. If it's fluffy, spray won't stick to it and it'll take forever to paint. You'll just have to use a brush. We want that surface nice and flat also because we're going to be sticking these LED strips on. We'll come to those a little bit later, but you need a nice flat surface for that glue to stick. If it's fluffy, it's not going to stick. Oh, it might stick, but it's not going to stick for long, especially when the LED warms up. It'll just fall straight off. So just a little tip before you glue them together to make your groove, pre-prime, pre-sand, pre-prime, pre-treat your edges, then you can glue them down. Also, we're talking about the top edge. Once it's done and you've made your shelves, if you've got quite a few, you basically want to just stack them up. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Clamp them together and then just get your orbital sander on the whole pack. Again, P80, 120, 240, something along those lines. Put a bit of ready mix filler over the top, let it dry. Rub it back with P240, then 310, 20, job done. Before you break that stack apart, just make sure you prime the whole pack, because you may have 10, 15, 20 shelves. Instead of doing them singularly, it's just a little pack technique. It's a little method that I sort of made up back in the day when I was when I had tons and tons of materials to prime and sand the edges. I just thought, well, what's the quicker way? Just do it as a whole pack. So just stack them up, sand, fill, sand, paint. Then you can break the packs apart, and then you could just run around with your trimmer, your 1.6mm radius cutter to give you those nice smooth corners. The reason I put a groove right near the back, so that is the front of the shelf that's aiming towards you, okay? I have the LED strip on this edge here, so it glows towards me, okay? So if this is the front, I would have it on this edge here. And the reason for that is I put it as far down as I can, up against this edge, and it creates a glow up against the backing of the media unit or within the space. If you have it on the other side, you're going to see the LED strip, you're going to see the dots. The reason behind this whole groove is to get the glow. So I'm not going to put it on the bottom of the groove or this back edge of the groove. I'm going to put it on the front vertical edge of the groove. Again, that is my own technique. It seems to work for me. Probably saying to me, why don't you use a diffuser? Why don't you just stick the light on the top? I've experimented with these for probably 10 years and found this is the way that works for me, in my personal opinion. I feel that when it's all made and it's all sprayed up and they're actually in an alcove unit and you've got 2 or 3 of them stacked up, you don't even notice the groove when they're not on, when the LED lights aren't on. And I think it's quite a nice detail. But when you do turn the LED lights on and they're there, you just get a lovely glow up against that back wall. Works a treat. Very simple. The process is simple to make. We're not overcomplicating it for the sake of overcomplicating it. Another thing is we don't want to just stick an LED strip on the shelf itself, or do we? I mean, it's possible. It's going to look tacky. It's going to look horrible. I stay away from diffusers. A customer of mine back in the day, maybe a year or so ago, did have an electrician to do all the wiring for me, because a few years back I didn't have a kit that was pre-wired. So he was having to connect it all for me, and he said, well, I've seen these LED diffusers, which I quite like. It's like a little aluminium strip that sits within your groove, and he said it looks nice. So I said, okay, let's go with that. I still have my LED strips at the bottom this time. He clicked on the diffuser, and the customer was, oh, she hated it. She absolutely hated it. It just looked tacky. It made my work look tacky. And it just stuck on proud. It wasn't flush. It stuck up about 5 mil. It was a tacky, silvery aluminium colour, and it did nothing for the shelf. So I like the raw, basic idea of just a groove. Have the LED strip light facing, so the light is glowing towards the back of the wall or the back of the unit, and that's as simple as it needs to be. Talking about lighting, I go to a place called Simple Lighting, and they're fantastic because you just tell them how many you need, what the lengths are, and they give you these LED ribbon lights. So I've just gone for, on this particular job here, I've gone for warm whites, and they could be cut at 2-inch increments, I believe, these ribbon lights. So if you get them slightly big, you don't know your exact size that you need. And they've got little lines on here that you can just cut back at every 50 mil increments. They're self-adhesive. This company cut them for you. So they supply you the kit, they can supply you the controller, they can supply you lots of little different bits and pieces, also multicolored lights. Like I said, I've gone for warm white. I've got 8 at roughly, I think it was a meter, at 1 and 1 at 1.7. And this is what I am making at the moment. As you can see, we've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, and 1 along the top. It's amazing how I can see through paper, isn't it? See where I'm pointing. So I need 8, so 1 meter, 1.7, 1 meter. And so I just called them up. I said, I had 9 in total. I need these sizes. I need them to be on a remote, and I need them to be easy enough for me to connect them, because I'm not a good electrician. I don't want to get an electrician, and I just want them to be easy and not to give me hassle. So what they've done is they've cut them to the rough lengths that I need. They put a little connector on the end, as you can see, which is fantastic. And each light has this, all wrapped up nice and neatly. And they've given me a transformer, or a driver, whatever you want to call it, an LED power supply, where you just put a 240 plug on there, which I've just got loads of 240 plugs. I'm able to wire a plug. And on the other end, it's got the part where you connect your LED lights in. There's 6 here, but we've got another 6 that we could just take the caps off. So we've got up to 12 on this particular one. They give me the right size, because obviously these are a certain wattage. This has to cope with the certain wattage. This particular one is a 50 watts. So they're happy that all of these lights aren't going to be any more than 50 watt. So it could be as simple as this plugged into a normal household 240 plug. Your lights plug into this, and you turn your lights on via just flicking the switch on and off on your plug socket. If you want to elaborate a little bit, then firstly you need to buy yourself a controller, or a sort of like a sensor for your remote. So this would basically be connected to, as far as I know, so you go from your plug socket, your 240 plug, to this, then from this to your transformer. So it would be like this, and then to your plug socket. And then what that does is every time you just flick your remote on and off, it tells this to turn on and off, and then in turn it tells you your lights to turn on and off. And the great thing about this is that you can do up to 4 different sets of lights. So I could have 4 different types of these. And I like the fact that it's all dimmable too. I did ask them for it to be dimmable. So very simple. Everything that you see here was from Simple Lighting, already cut to size, already wired, because that's the service that they provide. They do the soldering and the connecting. And I think it didn't come to any more than £150, including delivery. And that is going to be the main feature of this unit. So I just think it's fantastic how something so cheap can bring this to life with just some cheap LED strip lights. These LED strip lights that I'm using, they're 8mm, 2mm thick, and they're very simple. You can get ones with diodes a bit closer. I've just gone for a medium cost LED lights with not as many diodes as you could get. You could get them a bit closer and have a few more, be a bit brighter. But I don't need that. The customer doesn't want multicolored, they just want warm white because they want it to look luxurious, high-end. That's what they want to go for. Anything that I've missed? We didn't really talk about why I'm putting the groove in this position. Again, it's the way my brain works, it's a personal choice. I've just picked 70mm, so from the back end to the start of the groove, 70mm. I found that that works well with the way the light shines out the groove, it hits up against the back wall. I have seen on you know, Pinterest photos and other bits and pieces that people put their LED lights at this front. Not really my style. My thinking behind it is that LED grooves, LED lights at the back will give you a better glow. It'll glow that space up at the back and won't be as in your face. Oh, you've got an LED strip right in the front, you know. That's not really me. I just think at the back is a better place to position them. Other things, you could make these a little bit thicker if you wanted to. You can make them using 2 25mm pieces. You can use a 25 and an 18. But what I would say is that I like the groove depth of 18mm, just so you can just stick that light up on the back edge as close to the top of the groove as possible. So it's even less likely that you're going to see that LED lights. Because the last thing you want to see are the dots. You just want to see that glow. If you are thinking of just having a floating shelf as such, so if you've got your shelf within 2 walls in an alcove, then I would suggest, and you're just going down the method I use of floating shelf brackets, the pins that you use are 110mm. So just be aware if you are sliding these on pins, just to make this strip big enough, so when you're drilling your holes in the back of the shelf, you know, the groove and the holes don't interfere with each other. So you'd have to come maybe 130, something like that, 140 to the start of the groove. So once the LED light is stuck within that groove, you'll have to figure out where to put your cable. And in my instance, all these shelves that you see here, they're all going to feed within this space here. So we're going to drill a tiny little hole on these uprights. So you've got all your shelves, all these lights are going to be fed this way, and all these lights are going to be fed this way. So the uprights will have a tiny hole to feed the connector through, and the transformer and the driver will live behind the TV because we've got a socket and a power supply for the TV and also the lighting. Anything else? Not really, other than sorting out your edges before you glue down is probably the most important thing to do. And I find MDF a nice material to use for a floating shelf. It paints well, gives you a nice flat finish. So that's it, guys. I hope you enjoyed. If I've missed anything, please, please, please feel free to write in the comments, ask me questions. I'm always happy to answer some questions in the comments bar. Remember to like and subscribe. Definitely hit that subscribe button if you're feeling that I'm making videos worthy of watching. We're at 23,200 subscribers at the moment, which is pretty awesome. So thank you everyone who has subscribed already. If you haven't, feel free to hit that button if you think my videos are up to your liking. We're also on Instagram. We do stories near enough every day of the workshop and the spray room, constantly doing stories and reels and posts and showing you live videos, etc, etc. So feel free to give us a follow on there too. But other than that, guys, thanks for watching. I hope you enjoyed the video. See you in the next one. Ciao for now.